Part 230. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2295. When Bai Shan roughly calculated the direction of the other two fire lights, Man Bao finished gossiping with them. It took Mr. Mo 3 days to complete all the handovers with the Alliance. The main reason is that the last piece of meteorite Zhou Man sent was too big, so big that everyone's hearts were fluctuating, and they were not willing to give such a large resource to a laboratory, so someone proposed to set up another studio and separate competitions for research. This is also a little faster. And since there is a proposal to set up one more, there is naturally a proposal to set up two more. And things are still in Teacher Mo's hands. Alliance University is not stupid, but the most important thing is Mr. Mo, because he is the only one who can directly exchange teaching materials with Zhou Man. In addition to the existing ones, they all know that there are at least 2 meteorites in that world, although the size is unknown. But even if it is only the size of a fist, it is a profit in their hands. Therefore, when the establishment of the new laboratory could not be prevented, the Union University kicked out the 2 newly arrived researchers and asked them to preside over the other 2 laboratories, and then firmly grasped Mr. Mo. So when Man Bao was yawning and working hard to review his homework in the classroom, Mr. Mo went online with a fresh spirit. Although he doesn't admire power, the people he hates don't hang around in front of him, and it's very pleasing that the school also expresses its importance to him. Teacher Mo was in a good mood, and immediately gave Man Bao the blood test data of the villagers in Danchi village, and then explained them to her one by one. Man Bao is not very familiar with watching this, and he really needs someone to carry it. The children of Danchi village will not be mentioned. Those who are born later are basically born with defects, it is only a matter of the size of the defect. Such people cannot have offspring. Even if the next generation does not show up, hidden dangers will always exist in their genes, and it is uncertain when they will come out again. The physical effects of the young people are heavy or light. Teacher Mo guessed that it should be related to the distance from the meteorite and the length of time it has been in contact with the meteorite. In contrast, the least affected were some of the elderly who were marked by Zhou Man. But Teacher Mo frowned. You are only 48 years old. Man Bao, yes, it's all grandpa. Teacher Mo, who is not married yet, feels very young, and intends to stay single for 20 or 30 years before looking for a partner. He tried hard to switch to their world's thoughts, and took out 6 lists, and Man Bao said, only these 6 people can be cured by continuing to take the rejection medicine, the others cannot. 4 of them are grandparents, and 2 are a couple who live at the end of the village, a certain distance from the village. And the place where the craftsman hid the meteorite was his own home, and his home was at the entrance of the village. Man Bao touched his chin, the rejection medicine they took before. It's very effective, also because they took the rejection medicine 3 years ago, and now it's not very serious. First, give them 2 tubes, with an interval of more than 3 days, and then draw a tube of blood for testing after 3 days of each drug. After Teacher Mo finished talking about this, he asked about Man Bao's other meteorite. Man Bao was refreshed, and faced Teacher Mo with a thoughtful expression for the first time. Teacher Mo blinked and didn't speak at all, waiting to hear what she had to say. Hearing Man Bao said, Mr. Mo, I really have no choice but to ask for your help. Teacher Mo. He felt that the student seemed to like to ask him for help recently, since he said it's difficult to find a teacher. Teacher Mo nodded and said, tell me about it. Man Bao exaggeratedly described, Teacher, do you know what the outside world is like? Of course he knew, but what Man Bao was talking about was obviously her own world, although he could guess it. After all, several of her previous emails were complaining about how hard it was to travel in the desert. But Teacher Mo still shook his head in front of Man Bao. So Man Bao exaggerated, it's a desert, and it's a desert that no one has ever walked before. Man Bao said, In the desert there is no water, no direction, and even livestock can't walk far, and no one knows where the two meteorites landed, and whether they were divided into several pieces when they fell. If you want to find them, at least it will take another 5 years. Teacher Mo looked at the student in surprise, wondering if she was exaggerating or indeed. Man Bao had a serious face, and nodded seriously to him, and you know, I am an official in this world, it is impossible to stay here for too long, meteorites are poisonous, even if they are entrusted to others, they will not work. It's safe. So if we can't find it this time, we'll have to find an excuse next time. I don't know how many years. Mr. Mo has a vague feeling, which is a bit similar to the behavior of the group of PhD students under him who want to get some data from him. He looked at Man Bao and asked, So do you see if there is any good solution from the alliance? Teacher Mo raised his eyebrows. The main body was the alliance, not him. Teacher Mo thought about it. If we were here, it would be simple. The aircraft can always be found by flying around in the air, and it can be scanned even if it can't be found with the naked eye. That's right, even if the aircraft can come over, I won't open it, Man Bao replied immediately, so I can only scan, but my system level is still low, and now I can only scan a radius of 20 kilometers. If we can upgrade and expand the scope, then how much time and manpower and material resources we can save. Teacher Mo asked her, is this what you mean, or what your system means? Of course I mean it, Man Bao said righteously. I know that the subsystem cannot lure the host to participate in this kind of thing, but now the situation is special, we are not for keek, but to save money or time. Man Bao emphasized, I have to go back and be my official. Mr. Mo pondered, only the main system has permission to upgrade the subsystem, otherwise the Alliance and the Encyclopedia will not be able to give it points for nothing, and the main system is very likely to judge that the source of its points is improper. This matter has to be the Alliance and the Encyclopedia will go to the main system to negotiate. If it was before, the Alliance and the Encyclopedia would not even think about it. After all, Joe Man had been hanging carrots for them, and there was no actual progress. Their alliance and the Encyclopedia had already paid a lot. DRD's laboratory handed over the bills every now and then, and the cost was not small. But after Joe Man brought back so many small pieces of meteorite and this large piece of meteorite, the alliance seriously considered it. When they reviewed the relationship between subsystem 0531 and Joe Man before, they knew that it was a very primitive world, so the problem Joe Man raised did exist. While negotiating with the main system may cost a lot, it is nothing compared to the benefits. So the alliance agreed and said that it would talk to the main system. See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2296. Man Bao selected 6 out of the box of potions given by Teacher Mo, poured them into the medicine bottle and gave them to them, and then shared it among the 6 people. She also told the village chief truthfully, there are so many people in the village, only they can be cured. The foundation, blood of the others has been determined, and they cannot be cured. The result was much better than the village chief had expected, but this time, except for a young couple at the end of the village, the other 4 were not too young, and there was only 1 woman. Unfortunately, the other 3 were widowers. So the village chief had a headache after walking around them. Can you still have children? 3 people, the village chief, even if we can have children, we don't have a daughter-in-law. There were no women in the village who could bear children. The village chief said, if you can give birth, our village will save a lot of money, and then go out and buy you 3 female slaves to come back. When Man Bao heard it, he couldn't help but be speechless, how stubborn he was about the inheritance of blood. What she didn't expect was that the people in the village agreed, and even the teenagers said, give your uncle and them a wife, and we won't get married. The village chief comforted them and said, you can still marry. There are many girls in our village, but it's hard to have children. Then I will marry Mayasa, she is the most beautiful. No, Maisha is the one I want to marry, the smiling boy who had been beside him immediately sullenly said, Maisha also promised to marry me. You're not as strong as me, and I'm not as good at farming. Can you make Maisha live a good life? So what, I look better than you, and I can't have children anyway, I can support myself and Maisha also promised to marry me, she said she wanted to watch me face, don't look at you. So the two teenagers fought in front of the village chief. Seeing that they were making such a fuss in front of the distinguished guests, the village chief was so angry that he was about to reprimand them, but he saw Joe Man jumping up to cheer them on, and when they were finished, he gave them medicinal wine and rubbed the medicine, and then said, why don't you come together? Go and ask Mayisha, she is also one of the parties, she will marry whoever she says she will marry. So the two teenagers glanced at each other aggressively, turned around and ran to find Maisha. Seeing that Joe Man was so excited, the village chief suppressed his anger, and instead said to her with a worried look, Sir, although children can't have children, they have to get married and live. There are boys and girls in our village. It's fine, but... He was a little embarrassed when he said this. Although he was embarrassed, he still said with a red face, but when you are married, you will always get pregnant. If you can't get pregnant, you can kill it. I heard that it will kill people. Man Bao said, yes, some people are not suitable for abortion, or the medicine is not used well, and it is easy to bleed and disappear, so abortion medicine should not be taken indiscriminately. But it's not difficult to get pregnant. I'll give it to everyone later. Contraceptive pills are available for both men and women. You don't need to ask Mr. Mo for them. They are available in the mall and are very cheap. Moreover, because there are also contraceptive pills in this world, the system automatically classifies them as having no technology tax. Full treasure is not expensive to buy. Manbao immediately ordered 2 bottles, one for women, one for men, and one for life. According to the instructions, in addition to various ingredients, there are also one of the nanorobots will always ensure that the person who takes it will not have children unless it is eliminated by taking medicine again in the future. Manbao directly mixed the pill with honey and wrapped it in flour to make a layer of beeswax, and then distributed one to each person. In addition to the 6 people who had the hope of recovering, even the village chief got one. After getting the medicine, the village chief looked confused. Sir, we old people don't need to take it, right? Eat it, I made it anyway. Village chief, it's expensive, isn't it? Manbao is generous, I don't want money. Even 3 children under the age of 3 shared one, don't worry, it's suitable for all ages, and it's not bitter, and it won't affect development. So the whole village ate all but 6 people. Well, now you can get married with confidence. So there was no news from Mr. Mo on whether to upgrade Keek. 5 marriages were held in the village. In recent years, because the children born in the village have problems, the school-age men and women in the village are afraid to get married. It's good now, as soon as there are no worries, everyone starts looking for a partner to get married. The most popular girl among them is Maisha. Although she has already agreed to a boy's proposal, there are still many teenagers who do not give up and block Maisha in the village every day, hoping that she can think about it again. Not only Manbao, but Bai Shan also watched it with relish. Every day, he squatted on the wall with Manbao to watch Maisha being blocked by other teenagers, and then Maisha's fiancé joined them. Fortunately, there are no serious injuries, and at most, some medicinal wine for promoting blood circulation and removing blood stasis is needed. Because it is not serious, the village chief rarely sees the lifeless village come back to life, so he turns one eye and closes one eye and ignores them. Bai Shan watched with great interest for 2 days and finally felt that something was not right, so he could not help asking the village chief, why are the teenagers arguing, their parents don't care. The village chief said, "You can't have children. Children can be with whomever they want." After a pause, he couldn't help but say, "Maisha was meant to be given to my third grandson before." The village chief's third grandson is also one of the people who fight, but he still can't compete. Without the restraint of his parents, he will not have the burden of children in the future. The most handsome, married to her favorite person. Her parents didn't object either. Anyway, she won't have any grandchildren in the future. Neither of them are very lazy. They will naturally be able to live a good life on their own in the future, so there is no need to worry at all. After all, when they die, there's nothing left. Bai Shan thought thoughtfully, it turns out that having children can add so much trouble. Man Bao said, but if they don't have children, they will be less restrained. This is also true. Fortunately, Danchi village is remote, and the villagers don't want to go out to socialize with others. Even if there are no people guarding them outside, they have never thought of migrating to live elsewhere. Only in this one village, even without the restraint of future descendants, there will be no troubles. And the mayor is still very prestigious. Bai Shan had already found a prestigious village chief to negotiate the price of going out to look for meteorites. The village chief was grateful for Zhou Man's care for them, so he didn't plan to ask for money. As long as Bai Shan was in charge of their food and drink, no other compensation was required. Of course Bai Shan would not treat them badly. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2297. The village chief chose people for them, and then prepared water and a car for them. There were only 2 horses in the entire village, and they were old grazing horses, so they didn't give them any. Bai Shan and the others had their own horses, and they could use them directly by putting them on the cart. This time, because the position calculated by himself is not necessarily accurate, Bai Shan has made a lot of preparations. After all, he doesn't know when he will find it. However, he also told the people in the village, the water we brought, as long as we go out for half a month and there is no news, we will return, so we will come back in a month at the latest. If they don't come back for more than a month, then they've found a place, or something happened on the way. Seeing that there was no news from teacher Mo, Man Bao let Bai Shan arrange this. So the group set off first. The 2 directions chosen by Bai Shan were determined based on the known orientation of the Tiankeng and the impressions of the villagers, but not to mention that it has been a long time, and the memory will be wrong. Bai Shan was also prepared to search for a long time. Therefore, they are not at all surprised to encounter other people and villages on the road. The people of Danchi village had not seen outsiders for a long time, and when they saw outsiders, they subconsciously lowered their heads to avoid them. But the young men who came out did not have any flaws. They looked like all the Westerners, and at most they were thinner. So the people I met didn't pay attention to them. On the contrary, Bai Shan and Zhou Man were more eye-catching. The 2 of them were so good-looking and had a good temperament, and everyone's eyes couldn't help being drawn to them. Bai Shan and Man Bao did not avoid the gazes of these people. They took out some silk cloth and asked to stay overnight or buy water. After they settled in, they decided the direction with them, and inquired about the news. By the way, I heard that 3 big giants fell from the sky many years ago. The fireball smashed 3 big pits on the ground. Have you seen it? Someone shook his head directly. I haven't seen it before. It was a bad luck from the sky, and the kingdom was destroyed for this reason. Bai Shan, Gao Chang was obviously killed by King Gao Chang. What's the matter with the meteorite? But some people said excitedly, I saw it, I didn't sleep that night, the sky fell and the ground was shaking. Bai Shan asked curiously, did you see the direction of the fall? I heard that there are gems in the Tiankeng, and I want to see it. Oh, I heard that the gem was poisonous, but I didn't dare to look at it," the man said. "And who can find it?" "Back then, Master I searched for a long time and only found one. Master I is the noble master of their territory. Back then, the stone was given to the eldest prince through his hand, and then from the eldest prince to Hoji's hand, and then to the crown prince. But it's a pity that he couldn't wait for the prince's reckoning. As early as when the eldest prince found out that there was something wrong with the stone, his whole family was found by the eldest prince and imprisoned in the prison. Gone. Now there are no nobles in this territory, and it is directly under the jurisdiction of the Angxi Protectorate. Bai Shan couldn't ask for any useful information, so he looked left and right, seeing that the guards were all busy, and there was only a Daji guarding him, so he brought up another topic. "I heard that there is a country further west that is very powerful in medicine. The people there can not only prevent and treat smallpox, but also detoxify. Maybe they can detoxify such a poison. Everyone is not very interested in this poison anymore, and they are tired of talking about it 3 years ago, but they are very interested in the smallpox that is now very popular." Because of the traffic congestion, the news spread very slowly. In Bai Shan's eyes, the smallpox that had been in the past half a year is already a thing of the past, but ordinary people in the western regions have just heard about the outbreak of smallpox in the Central Plains. So the person being questioned glanced at Bai Shan and Zhou Man, nodded knowingly and asked, "Do you want to find someone from that country to treat smallpox?" Bai Shan smiled and did not deny it. People in the western regions couldn't help but slander, saying that the Han people were very crooked, and sure enough, they were obviously going for the smallpox, but they insisted on looking for stones that fell from the sky. He just said, "Poisonous stones, you can stay as far away as you want, why do you still look for them?" It turned out that their original purpose was smallpox. They had never heard of this country, but they seemed to be very powerful, so they couldn't help asking, and Bai Shan told them vividly the story that the three of them had worked hard to compile for a long time. Legend has it that there is a country in the west, where birds sing, flowers are fragrant, plants are lush, and medicinal herbs are abundant, so there are many people with excellent medical skills, and many difficult diseases are common diseases there. Bai Shan thought of this at the beginning. When Man Bao and Bai Erlang heard it, they felt how unlucky that country was to make many difficult diseases become common diseases. However, people outside obviously liked this beginning, but the people who listened to the story at the beginning already yearned for it, and when they heard that they had a method of planting pox, that is, to infect the cow with smallpox, and then inoculate the pox from the cow to people body, and then people can be free from smallpox for a lifetime. I heard that people in that country have to be vaccinated after birth, so they can go wherever they want without fear of smallpox, without fear of disease. People who listened to the story became more and more yearning. Except Daejeon. Although there has long been speculation that the young master and the others came to the western regions for fear that they were not really looking for some kind of vaccination method, but when he heard this story, Daji was still stunned. He was all too familiar with the beginning of such a story. In the past, when the young master would tell such a detailed story, it was mostly on purpose. Daji knew it, but others didn't. When Bai Shan and the others left, the story spread widely in the village. Many people yearned for the western country, and then spread from the village to the market, and then slowly spread to elsewhere. By the time people in Zizhu heard the story vaguely, the story had already been spread and evolved many times. Of course, it was General Guo who got the news first. To be honest, the mission lived in his city of Zizhu, and it was impossible to say that he had no doubts in his heart. He had already inquired about it before, and he had never heard of any place where there was a method of inoculating pox. Moreover, he himself sneered at this method. In the face of smallpox, he could only hide, where would he rush to plant it? However, the emperor and the court seemed to be convinced by this law, and he could only entertain the embassy, so that Zhou Man and Bai Shan in the regiment could leave, while the others stayed in Zizhu and kept stirring up the storm in the city every day. Seriously, even if he claimed to know the emperor well enough, sometimes he couldn't help but suspect that the mission sent by the emperor was really for some kind of acne, not something else. And at this moment, he got a report from his subordinates. General Guo was shocked and immediately sat up from the seat. "What did you say?" "See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2298. The soldier knelt on the ground to answer, and he himself felt a little confused, because he was one of the people who went around to inquire about the method of vaccination. At that time, let alone the method of vaccination, he did not even inquire about the treatment of smallpox. In the Central Plains, although there is basically no cure for smallpox, the doctor can still come up with a prescription or two. But in the western regions, if you get a disease like smallpox, you will basically kill them all and burn them, and spread it as an immune disease. They haven't even found a prescription, let alone a prescription for epidemic prevention. But now, the soldier said, it's a businessman who came to Zizhu to sell wolf skins and sheep. He came from Tingzhou. He knew that someone was asking for a way to cure smallpox. He thought there was a reward for him, so he came over to receive the reward. General Guo sat down on the chair and asked, "Isn't it just made up?" The soldiers did not dare to draw conclusions. General Guo paused and said, "Call someone, and I will ask myself." The soldiers took their orders and left. It is said that there is a Buddhist country in the extreme west. The people there are very powerful, and everyone has medical skills. Many intractable diseases can be cured, and smallpox is even simpler. General Guo lost interest in an instant, leaned back in his chair and thought, returning to the Buddha country, this is a nonsense. The merchant continued, I heard that there is a way over there, that is to plant smallpox on cows, wait for the cows to develop pox, and then inoculate pox on people. People there are vaccinated at birth, so they don't have it all their lives. Will get smallpox. General Guo couldn't help sitting up again, narrowing his eyes and thinking, is there really such a country? The businessman said confidently, of course, my lord, only some old people know about such a legend. The little one knows it because he is popular. I heard that there are adults here asking about this, and the little one has traveled thousands of miles to rush it on purpose. Come. General Guo understood what he meant and looked at the personal soldiers beside him. The personal soldiers gave him a roll of silk cloth. The businessman hugged him tightly, but he didn't expect that the news would really be able to exchange money. General Guo asked, where is that country? In the far west. General Guo. After luck, he asked, do many people know about this? Not many, they are all old people. Because they have lived for a long time and have seen many people, they heard it from some businessmen passing by. Many people don't know it. General Guo waved his hand and was no longer interested in listening. He pointed to his personal soldiers and said, take him to the mission and give it to them. The businessman was startled, holding the silk cloth and trembling, General, I don't want this reward. General Guo, take it, is Ben such a stingy person? Let him take you to another place to collect the reward, and repeat what you said to Ben. So the merchant followed the personal soldiers to visit Mr. Zhuang's courtyard. Bai Erlang and the others were much more generous than General Guo. They asked more detailed questions, and then gave the merchant a whole silk cloth. After the businessman was sent out, Mr. Zhuang looked at Bai Erlang, did you make up this story? Bai Erlang subconsciously denied, no. They are clearly talking about a country with rich national strength, not a Buddhist country or a kingdom of gods. Mr. Zhuang was a little skeptical, but this story sounded a little familiar. His suspicious eyes swept across Bai Erlang, and finally he didn't ask about it again, but said, since there is news, Let someone go out and find out if they can find out more details. He paused and said, Bai Shan and the others are also in the direction of Tingzhou. Maybe they can know more detailed information. Although Mr. Zhuang came with the intention of studying abroad, he really wanted to find a way to prevent and control smallpox, but now it seems that the so-called prescription for preventing and treating smallpox was also created by a few disciples. Mr. Zhuang frowned, but when he saw Nai Kenjun and Wei Xingren rushing over, he smiled and temporarily suppressed these thoughts. Nai Shenjun was very excited. Master Zhuang, have you heard any news about the vaccination? Mr. Zhuang nodded with a smile. Yes, thanks to General Guo, he has been sending people outside to inquire about this matter, and now there is some vague news. Cut out the story the businessman told, leaving only the key parts to tell them. Nai Kenjun's eyes lit up. There really is such a method, then can't we get the recipe if we find this small country in the western regions? Wei Xingren and the others did not have such confidence. The two said, there are so many small countries in the western regions. It's not clear. It's just a place in the extreme west. It doesn't even say the name of a country. Where can I find it? And the farther west you go, the more unstable it becomes, and the colder it gets. If you keep going, I'm afraid you won't be able to turn around for years. Although they are ready to spend 2 years on the road to the western regions, it does not mean that they are willing to live in the countries of the western regions for a long time. Even if they have a lot of money, they still miss the comfort of the capital. Mr. Zhuang thought for a while and then said, Man, Lord Zhou can't leave the capital for a long time, and there is still Bai Er, he always has to go back to the capital. Now the chief is not there, wait for her to come back and discuss the matter. Bar. Mr. Zhuang paused and said, maybe they have good news there. Wei Xingren and the others suddenly seemed to have taken a reassurance pill, too, and Bai Cheng was still there. He is Princess Mingda's concubine. Others can hang around outside for a few years without returning to Beijing, but he can't. Next year, Princess Mingda can get married after showing filial piety, so he can't help but return to Beijing. So Nai Kenjun, Wei Xingren, and the others were all happy and left with peace of mind. Let's wait for Lord Zhou to come back and discuss the matter, but they can also inquire about it nearby. Not many people knew about this news, but Nai Kenjun and the others were willing to inquire, and they could still find out some news. Although the stories I heard are different, the key point has not changed. In the extreme west, there is indeed a country where people know how to grow cowpox. I heard that people in that country are never afraid of smallpox when they go out. It sounds enviable. Not only was Nai Kenjun and the others envied, but the people in the western regions and the grasslands were even more envious. The herdsmen in the western regions and grasslands have horses and people are brave and powerful, but why are they always unable to reach the central plains? Of course, they don't think it's their limited combat power and lack of resourcefulness. They think it's diseases like smallpox that limit them. It is very dangerous for them to enter the customs, and it is very likely that they will catch diseases such as smallpox, so they cannot enter the central plains. Yep, that's why. When Nai Kenjun heard these small comments when he was inquiring about the news, he was quite dissatisfied, and when he came back, he said to Mr. Zhuang and the others, Your Majesty is so kind to them, but they have no feelings for them, and they still think about entering the central plains. Heartbreaking. See you tomorrow. Come on, put a spell on your head, I swear, I'll add more tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2299. Bai Erlang said, smallpox was originally introduced into the central plains from foreign countries. If they are afraid of smallpox, they should not go to the west. The further west, the more people there will get smallpox, right? Nai Kenjun has few studies and only knows that smallpox is terrible. He really doesn't know where smallpox came from. He can't help but tilt his head and ask, Did smallpox spread to the central plains from the western regions? Because Man Bao is a doctor, Bai Erlang followed them to find some medical books, plus the discussion between her and Bai Shan, so he knew more. He nodded and said, yes, it is said that the Han dynasty fought with the western regions, on the battlefield. Too many people died, the disease was rampant, and some soldiers got the disease, and the pockmarked face after the disease was cured, that's why it was called smallpox. This disease was transmitted back to the central plains with the soldiers, and then the disease kept going away for some reason. Bai Erlang paused and said, I heard Manbao talk about it. Even if it is buried in dust, exposed to the sun, and washed by rain, it may live for a year, or even longer. Nikanjun and others were startled. And it can also be deposited on other animals, so smallpox always breaks out at no time. Unless everyone has smallpox seeds in their bodies, the disease cannot be eliminated. Nikanjun and others pondered. Never had they felt that the cowpox recipe was so important. So Nikanjun tried hard to hear that although there was still very little news, he still heard some. As he recorded, he wondered, did General Guo not care at first? Although it is a bit difficult to inquire, but it is not really impossible to hear any news, right? Mr. Zhuang lowered his eyes and said, the western regions are not stable, and General Guo is so busy, I am afraid that his energy is not on this. Nikanjun thought about the busy Angzi protectorate during this time, and felt that Mr. Zhuang was right, but he was still a little dissatisfied. I feel that General Guo did not take His Majesty's will to heart, otherwise why would they need to make this trip? Although they did not lose this trip. But before Nikanjun expressed any dissatisfaction, General Guo personally led the troops on the expedition. Of course, these had little to do with their mission, and the Duhu mansion only sent people to remind them not to go west or south recently. They are about to hit Kyosai, and if the envoys run to the vicinity and accidentally get hurt, they can only be loyal to the country. Mr. Zhuang responded, and after sending the people out, he looked back at Bai Erlang, did you hear me? Before Bai Erlang said it, Nikanjun hummed politely, Master Zhuang, General Guo is too arrogant. Mr. Zhuang smiled and said, he is also kind. During this period of time, they fought in the arena in the air, and returned basically what he had done to Lu Huan some time ago, but the 4 young men who came forward were Bai Erlang and 4 young men, which made General Guo unable to use many methods, but his son did not. On his side, it is not enough to want them little young to have a conflict. Under such circumstances, it was rare for General Guo to send someone to remind them. But General Guo was obviously not so kind. After being reminded by his son, he had to send someone to inform the mission. He snorted and said to Guo Zhao, we said, they may not appreciate it. Guo Zhao said, Father, it's their business whether they appreciate it or not, but we have fulfilled our responsibility to protect the government, so that's fine. He didn't want his father to be entangled in old feuds, so he opened the topic and said, Father, the passage has been connected, and the letter has been sent out for more than half a month. It should be at Yumengguan now. I don't know if the imperial court will send troops to help. General Guo said, Your Majesty is ambitious, the Western Turks have always been enemies of the imperial court. These small countries in the western regions swayed from side to side, holding the grain and silk of our great Jin, but begging for mercy from the Western Turks. If you are against it, Your Majesty will definitely not allow it, don't worry, as long as the documents enter the capital, His Majesty will definitely send reinforcements. There are many people in Kyosai, many soldiers and horses, and there are Western Turks behind, so it is really difficult to defeat all the thousands of soldiers and horses from the Angzi Duhufu alone. But they can eat some first, and there is a little General Meng watching on the Tubo side, so it's not a big problem. Guo Zhao complied, so he and his father walked towards Kyosai. When the war broke out, General Guo had no time to talk to Lu Huan, and the old feud was temporarily put aside. Bai Shan and the others were in the wilderness at this time, not only from Kyosai, but also from Zizhu, so naturally they didn't know about it. They have passed a desert, this is a meadow, and they asked people in the nearby village yesterday, and they also saw fireballs falling, one of which was going to be further ahead. In their words, first there was a loud bang, and we ran out to see a huge fireball falling from above our heads. Fortunately, it went to the desert over there and didn't hit our village, otherwise it would have died. As soon as Bai Shan heard this, he immediately said to Man Bao, it shouldn't be far away. Man Bao also felt that it was not far away. They had been out for so long, and they finally got good news. Just as they were about to be happy, Mr. Mo, who had been busy all the time, also went online. He contacted Man Bao urgently, knowing that it was daytime on her side and it was not easy to talk, so he sent her an email and told her, the main system has agreed and will upgrade System 0531, which will be shared by the Alliance and the Encyclopedia. Man Bao's eyes brightened, and Keek also tickled, knowing, the upgrade will be temporarily shut down, please let the host know. Then the voice disappeared. Man Bao can only see the space of the system, and even the mall is currently offline. But Man Bao was very happy, he stretched out his hand and shook Bai Shan's hand and said happily, shall we stop for a day? Bai Shan turned his head and asked her, are you tired? Man Bao shook his head and whispered to him, we can wait for good news. Bai Shan didn't ask what the good news was. After nodding, he said to Daji, find a place to camp nearby and stop. We'll take a day off and leave tomorrow. When auspicious, let someone find a water source, it is more convenient to be stationed by the water. Man Bao climbed up a small slope, looked into the distance and said, I don't know if the other team has news. After coming out, Bai Shan perfected the direction map after inquiring with some nearby villages. Then after they entered the desert, they divided their directions in front of the known Tiankang. They only took 2 villagers as guides, and the rest formed another team to go in the other direction. Bai Shan went in the direction calculated by Bai Shan, and I don't know if they can find it. But if they can't, they should be back in a few days. Man Bao was awakened in the early hours of the morning. She noticed the familiar sound of Zizi, and immediately got up from the blanket, closing her eyes slightly to contact Keek. Keek updated the system, and the tablet greeted the host, Host, the upgrade is completed, the scanner is restarting. Man Bao could hear the joy in its voice. See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2300. Keek continued to walk forward for 2 days, and they only scanned the place one day after they entered the desert. It is not directly in front of them, the direction is a little off, and it is still within its scanning range. Man Bao quietly told Bai Shan. Bai Shan didn't ask anything, just pretended to study with the blueprint, and then the team changed direction. After walking for half a day, Keek said to Man Bao, go ahead and enter the radiation zone. Man Bao looked forward, but did not see the Tiankang. This is not the same as the known pit, so Man Bao didn't speak, but directly led them forward. After trotting forward for half an hour on their horses, they saw a pit. It wasn't very big, but it was different from the pits usually seen in the desert. Everyone stepped forward to look, and with one glance, the 2 Donchi village youths who had found gems in the Tiankang said, it's such a pit. Man Bao turned back and said to them, exit 10 miles to find a place to camp. That not only exits the radiation range, but also exits the line of sight. Everyone stepped back in an orderly manner. This time, Man Bao and Bai Shan still only brought De Ji in, but they didn't let De Ji get close, only let him watch from a distance. Although this pit is deep, it is much smaller. There are some scattered stones in it. The largest one is only the size of a head and has a thick stone skin. It is also because of this layer of stone skin that its radiation is not so strong. Some scattered small stones showed beautiful colors inside. If anyone passed by here, they would definitely take them away as gems. Man Bao collected all the stones and sent them to the classroom together, and then sat in the pit with Bai Shan to rest. He was still very tired from digging. Even if there are 2 excavation robots to help, they have to move the stones together, right? Bai Shan dug out a very special stone from the gravel, and curiously showed it to Man Bao. Look at this one. Without Keek identifying her, she said, it didn't fall from the sky. Bai Shan couldn't help laughing. Of course I know it didn't fall from the sky. Do you think it's very moist, yet unique in shape? Man Bao fixed his eyes on it. The stone was not very big, but not too small. It was estimated that it was 1/3 of her height, but its width was about the same as her upper body. Half of it was buried under the gravel before, but when the excavating robot digs a stone, it digs down beside it, so the half of its body is exposed. Bai Shan thought it looked good, so he took the medicine hoe and continued digging, and then he dug it out. I saw that several layers of stones were stacked on top of each other, but the stacks were not very close, so there was a sense of layers, and there were many holes in the stones. It looks like a cave. It's just that the color is not very beautiful, most of it is yellow like sand, and a small part is gray-black. Man Bao bent his fingers and tapped, and the voice was clear and pleasant. Man Bao asked Keek, is it poisonous after staying here for so long? Keek scanned it and said, no poison. Toxic is the gravel further down. Man Bao was relieved when he heard it, and waved his hand, take it back if you like it. So Man Bao and Bai Shan took a stone and went back to find Daji. The two said to him, those poisonous stones have been disposed of, this one is not poisonous. We think it looks good, and we plan to take it back and give it to Mr. Zhuang. What can Daji do? He could only reach out to take it and carry it back to them. Back at the camp, Bai Shan said to them, it's all been dealt with, but some areas under the sand are infected. We can only wait for time to slowly consume the poison. The guards had already had one experience, and they started to pack up and prepare to go back after they got off. Poisonous is poisonous, and they won't come here again anyway. On the other hand, the 2 young people in Danchi village felt a little dazed, and it was over for just 1 day. They searched for this Tiankeng for 14 days, but it only took 1 day to solve it. Let's go back to them and see if there is any news in their direction. The other team did not find the Tiankeng within the time, but they also inquired a lot of information just like Bai Shan inquired about the news. Anyone who saw the abnormal situation that night, they asked for the direction, so they looked in the direction, there is still some news. They turned several directions and villages, and handed over the corrected road map to Bai Shan, which saved Bai Shan and the others a lot of effort. Bai Shanlu asked them to go back to Danchi village first, let's go to the next village and town to add some fresh water, and follow your path to find it. It will take up to a month to go back and forth, so you go back first to report safety. Otherwise, it would take too long for them to go back to Danchi village and find another direction. After all, it has been more than a month since they came out. The people from Danchi village had no objection, they only left 2 people with their team to lead Bai Shan and the others, and the rest went back. Because a group of people had already passed by, Bai Shan and the others would save time and effort when they walked. The young man who led them pointed to the distance and said, follow this road from midday to sunset, and there is a village, but they say fireball it fell in that direction. We went there at the time, but when we came back, we changed the road, very quickly. Bai Shan asked, how fast? After walking in that direction from that village for a day, we entered the desert. We continued to walk along the way, and we didn't find it for 4 days, because after half a month, we came back. He said, when you come back, just look at the direction of the sunrise and come back, so we left the desert in 2 days, and walked here from morning to noon. Look, there are sticks we inserted there. The journey was indeed shortened a lot. Bai Shan said, let's go this way. The youth of Danchi village had experience in searching for Tianken, and he trusted their judgment on the direction. So the group did not go to the place where there was a village. They had enough drinking water and didn't need to add it, so they walked directly to the edge of the desert and went in directly. After walking for less than 2 days, they arrived at the place that the young people said. They also made a mark here, 3 sticks. At this time, the sticks had not been blown down by the wind and sand. When he got here, the young man didn't know where he was going, he could only gesture. They said that they saw it falling in that direction. Annie was going to take us forward, but the desert is too deep and we were afraid of food. There's not enough water, and it's been half a month. Bai Shan expressed his understanding, and after looking at Man Bao, he decided to move on. After walking for another day and a half, when Man Bao himself doubted whether the young people really found the right direction, Keek said, I found it. Man Bao was refreshed, replaced Bai Shan, and pointed the way himself, let's go in that direction. This time, even Daji looked over, and every time Miss Man said this, he could often find it. Sure enough, the young master turned around without even thinking about it. Daji didn't ask, but silently led people to turn around. Everyone accelerated their pace and moved forward. Sure enough, they found the Tianken at sunset. Bai Shan glanced at the sky, then turned around and said, let's go, let's stay away for now, and come back tomorrow to deal with it. See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2301. Man Bao took the problematic stone from the excavation robot's frame, put it in a pile of stones on the side, and then picked up the broken small stones under the guidance of Keek. There are many rocks in this Tianken, and one of them is a big rock that is broken. It should have been the falling meteorite that smashed through the sand and encountered it. The 2 stones collided and were torn apart together. Except for a few protruding stones that were shot under the sand, the other meteorites floated to the surface and were very broken. Bai Shan put the stones he picked up on the pile of stones. No one pointed him, but he could tell which ones were meteorites and which ones were ordinary stones. Most of what Man Bao was looking for were meteorites that sank under the ground. Bai Shan was powerless. After all, his eyes couldn't see into the ground. Man Bao received all the meteorite blocks he found in the classroom. Teacher Mo had been waiting. He took the things and packed them up. After isolating the radiation, he sent an email to Man Bao and asked, everything is here already? Man Bao asked Keek to reply with a yes. Teacher Mo asked her, is the mining robot still useful? Man Bao replied, it's too old, it was broken when a meteorite was dug up before. Teacher Mo said, if it's broken, it's broken. If you treat it as scrap iron, it is also something that will be eliminated. After Mr. Mo replied to this email, he decided on the ownership of the excavation robot that was temporarily borrowed at that time, but the Alliance and encyclopedia that gave him permission had long forgotten about it. In other words, there are more important things for them to pay attention to and worry about, and this little sesame and mung bean is not enough to attract their attention. How to distribute the meteorites given by Joe Man, I don't know where the news came out, and now several planets are snatching this thing. They all want to obtain post-meteorite research, to be able to discover the secrets of genetic variation faster, stabilize genes, and benefit all intelligent races, and by the way, become famous and live on forever. Even Teacher Mo said to Man Bao, I will be very busy recently. If you have something to do, send me an email, and if you don't understand your homework, send an email. I will give you an answer when I see it. He added, I recorded a lot of courses some time ago. I listened to the lectures by myself first, and then I had homework to do, and then send me an email when I finished it. The recommended books for the next year have been sent to your mailbox, and you have finished reading this year's books. If you don't understand the book, just buy it and take a look. If you don't understand it, write it down and send me an email. Of course, I suggest you find a way to answer it yourself. If you can't answer it or you're not sure, ask me again. Man Bao knew that from today, she would become a student in a semi-stocking state. I don't know why, but she was not disappointed, she was a little excited and happy. She whispered to Bai Shan, when we get back to Zizhu City, let's go out with Mr. Bai Shan raised his eyebrows and asked, what about the cowpox? Man Baidao, the news should reach Zizhu City, and it's fine if it doesn't. We just said that we met someone outside who knew the approximate method of vaccination, and we'll know if it's true or false if we try it out for ourselves. Bai Shan asked, where to try? What do you propose? I propose to try it in Zizhu, he said. Since we are here for the cowpox method, we will naturally go back after we have the exact news. Man Bao pondered, it's easy to say, I have smallpox scabs on my hands, I can test it if I buy 2 cows, but what should I do? Man Bao was a little worried, this is not the capital after all, and our relationship with General Guo is not good in the capital, there are the emperor and the prince, and the hospital below. As long as her advice is reasonable, they will always help her. Bai Shan thought for a while and then said, let's talk to General Guo first. It's good to be successful. If we don't make a case with the capital, we just have time to study this method in detail. Man Bao was still a little distressed, who should I use? Bai Shan smiled and said, of course it's a prisoner. Zizhu was originally the country of Zhao Kang. After being captured, many prisoners were imprisoned in the city. There are also prisoners who were exiled from other places. There are indeed many prisoners in Zizhu, but with the exception of a small number of prisoners who were imprisoned in prisons, or were directly taken to the vegetable market for beheading, the rest were all dragged by General Guo to serve as soldiers in the army. They are still criminals, and they can only rely on military merit to reduce their crimes. If they are lucky, they are willing to work hard. After a few years of fighting, the reduction will be over, and then General Guo will put people into the military, and they are still soldiers. It's just that you can be rewarded for meritorious deeds. However, General Guo was stingy, and treated the soldiers he recruited and conscripted by the imperial court harshly, and he was even called the soldiers who were criminals. But no matter how harsh it is better to fight a war than to be a medicine man, and still be a medicine man of smallpox. Daji attacked them, Master, those prisoners are not necessarily happy. The prisoners in the capital have no other way, so they choose to give it a try, but the criminals here have other choices. Bai Shandao, the big deal is to give money, there must be a brave man under the heavy reward, I don't believe that no one will come. Anyway, what are they afraid of when they have money? Man Bao, however, felt distressed about money, first try to see if you can recruit among the prisoners. Bai Shan glanced at her and nodded with a smile. The meteorites in the 3 Tiankengs were all disposed of, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Back at Danqi village, Man Bao called for the 6 villagers, and finally drew their blood and asked teacher Mo to help with the test. The results are good, their rejection effect is good, and the medicine has repaired a little damage to their bodies. Man Bao simply gave them a few prescriptions, this time I came out in a hurry and didn't bring any medicinal materials. This is a prescription. You can grab the medicine and eat it. It will be easier to give birth after recuperating your body. He added, it doesn't matter if it's inconvenient for you to go out. After we return to Zizhu, we will ask someone to send you some things, and the medicinal materials will be prepared. I will write the names at that time, and you can use them to boil the medicine. The village chief and the villagers were grateful. Especially the village chief, he sent people away 10 miles away, and then sent them 10 miles away. When he wanted to insist on sending the third 10 miles, Man Bao finally couldn't help but stop him. Send 1,000 miles to send you a goodbye, or the village chief wants to get along with him. Are we going to West State? The village chief was still a little timid about the outside world, and shrank his neck and declined. However, when Joe Man and the others were leaving to part, he still gritted his teeth and asked indescribably, "Sir, can they really have children when they are so old?" Man Bao, it's fine to ask her this question in the village, why bother to ask her from 20 miles away? Man Baodao said, a healthy person can't guarantee childbirth, but their fertility is not bad, and normal couples should be able to give birth. The village chief breathed a sigh of relief and solemnly bowed to Joe Man and the others before watching them leave. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2302. They went back much faster. It can be said that they returned to their hearts like arrows, and they hurried on the road, but they saw the city gate of Zizhu in 5 days. Only when they saw the gate of the city, Man Bao and Bai Shan kicked the horse's stomach to speed up and rushed over. The soldiers who were routinely guarding the city gate heard the hurried sound of horse hooves and lifted their eyelids to take a look. They thought it was a military newspaper outside, so they wanted to close their eyes and continue to doze off. As a result, their eyelids were half closed, and what they saw finally got feedback into the brain. He opened his eyes again and saw the 2 men walking in parallel, jumping up from the base of the city wall in surprise, waving his hands and shouting, "Sir, Lord Zhou Master Bai." The soldier guarding the gate was startled by him. Seeing that it was the soldier from the mission, he was very angry and scolded, "What are you screaming about? Every day they stand guard here without stopping for even a single moment, but these few members of the embassy are taking turns to sleep here, which is too much." Man Bao and the others had already approached the horse. Hearing the soldier's call, he looked down and recognized him. She restrained the horse and asked, "Why are you here?" Xiao Bing raised a big smile and replied, "Nai Kenjun asked the lowly post to wait for the adults here, saying that the adults may come back, and the people in the team are all divided, and one guards the city gate every day, so that when the adults come back, we will just know." Bai Shan also restrained his horse and asked, "Sir, are they all okay?" "Young Master Bai, Master Chuang, and the others are all fine. It was just a surprise that Turkic soldiers came to attack the city 8 days ago." It was Man Bao and Bai Shan's turn to be startled. "What, the Turks are coming to attack the city? Shouldn't Western State be safe? The Protectorate is here." Man Bao and Bai Shan immediately went into the city to ask about the situation, but the soldiers at the gate stopped them to check. They didn't know Joe Man and Bai Shan before, but their companions were so famous, and they had just talked so much with the soldier under the city wall, they naturally knew who it was. "But I know I have to check it again. We will let them in only after it is determined that as many people as they go out will come back." The soldiers who came to pick them up chatted and explained to them, "Sir, last time the Turks came to attack the city was mixed with fine works, causing chaos in the city, so now the city gates are checked more strictly." Man Bao was worried, "Are you all right when the Turks attacked the city?" "It's all right," Xiao Bing said with a smile, "when the city is in chaos, we are not allowed to join the army. Our 3 yards are next to one another, and the other side is the heavy rain and their yards. The 4 yards are watching and helping each other. Even if they come, we will guard the courtyard wall, and they will give away for nothing when they come." Only then did Man Bao breathe a sigh of relief. After entering the city, he saw that the city was still in order, and there was no sorrow or anxiety on the faces of the people, so he asked, "They didn't invade, did they?" "No," Xiao Bing said, "they blocked the city gate for 2 days, and then our reinforcements arrived. Your Excellency, the Central Plains are here, and General Ashina personally led the troops." Man Bao and Bai Shan looked at each other. Xiaobing didn't know much about it, so the two mounted their horses and trotted back. Before Man Bao jumped off his horse, he heard the familiar loud laughter coming from the yard. The two immediately jumped off the horse and pushed the door. Bai Erlang, who was laughing while covering his stomach in the yard, laughed when he saw the two of them, and then he was so angry that he couldn't help but hiccup. Then he came back to his senses and pointed at them with twice. When he found that he couldn't speak for a while, he just ran towards them and hugged them. The two of them burst out laughing. Bai Shan held onto his shoulders, and pushed his hand holding Man Bao away in disgust. Do you know whether men and women give or receive? Bai Erlang pushed him away, hugged Man Bao alone, then looked at him triumphantly and said, male and female, it's true that they don't get along. Seeing that he was lighting up and saying female, Bai Shan stretched out a leg and gave him a kick. Bai Erlang jumped away, turned around and happily ran to the backyard and told Mr. Zhuang to go. Yin Or and Lu Huan came forward to meet them. Is the journey safe? Bai Shan said, there is no danger along the way. Everything was found and destroyed. But you, I heard that the Turks surrounded Zizhu city. Yin he said, fortunately, the reinforcements from the central plains came in time and the siege was quickly cleared. We were not affected. Mr. Zhuang and Zhou Liru hurried over from the backyard and saw that they didn't change except that they were a little darker, so they slowed down and became satisfied. Mr. Zhuang stroked his beard and smiled. Zhou Liru rushed forward and hugged his sister-in-law, shouting happily. Man Bao appeased her, and went up with Bai Shan to salute Mr. Zhuang. Mr. Zhuang smiled and said, it's good to come back safely. We were worried that you would encounter Turkic soldiers on the road. Fortunately. Nai Kenjun and Wei Xinggren also rushed over after hearing the news, and Bai Shan and Man Bao went back to the house to wash up. After washing my hair, taking a shower, and changing into clean clothes, I went out to talk to them refreshed. As soon as Man Bao opened the door, the two beautiful girls saluted in unison. Man Bao was taken aback, stepped back, and asked, who are you? The two said softly, sir, we are here to wash your dirty clothes. He said again, we still have to wait for adults to comb their hair and dress. In fact, they wanted to push the door in just now, but found that the door was closed, so they had to wait outside first. Man Bao said quickly, clothes can be washed, but you don't need to comb your hair and dress. These are two of the 10 dancers. Man Bao scratched his head and asked Zhou Liru after going out, they have nothing to do recently. Zhou Liru snorted and said, who said there are no more, it's all the fault of the Duhufu. A few days ago, Duhufu came to take care of us and wanted people, saying that they wanted to buy 10 people back with us. They were terrified. For fear that we will sell them back, they have been very diligent in recent days, and they have to find something to do when they have nothing to do. Zhou Liru said sadly, the yard is not very dirty, but they have to clean it 5 times a day, and I'm tired looking at it. Man Bao, why does the Duhufu buy people back? I heard that it is to be given to General Ashina. Man Bao stared, why, isn't General Ashina the concubine? Zhou Liru didn't understand either. I don't understand either, but after listening to Nai Kenjun and Mr. Zhuang, it seems normal. She looked left and right, and whispered in Man Bao's ear, they said in private that if they were sent to General Ashina and used them, they would not follow General Ashina to the princess mansion in the future, or they would be taken by the generals handed it over to the people under his command. The former is still a servant, and the latter may be a concubine. They said that it would be better to stay with us. Although they are all servants, we at least don't beat them here. Zhou Liru said, I thought they were capable, so I kept them. Man Bao nodded, how can anyone who sent it buy it back? General Guo is too stingy. See you tomorrow. Anyway, I added it, continue tomorrow, Red Duck. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2303. Everyone was sitting in the lobby drinking tea together. The kitchen was already cooking, and the dishes were not ready, so they served them snacks first. There is not much good dim sum to eat in the western regions. Fortunately, he is from the Central Plains and knows several kinds of dim sum, so she managed to collect 2 plates. Manbao took a piece of dessert to eat, and Nikenjun told Manbao good news: Your Majesty ordered General Ashina to be the marching commander, and General Guo to be the deputy commander to conquer Kyosai. Now that we count, the war has been going on for about a month. General Ashina has been here for 7 or 8 days. He said, if we hit it next year, we might be able to return to the court with General Ashina and the others. In that way, the security is too guaranteed. It doesn't matter if there are horse thieves along the way. If there are, do they dare to attack the army of Dejin? Manbao was speechless. Why did they come so quickly? Nikenjun glanced at them and said, General Ashina is already in Lanzhou. Your Majesty ordered that Liangzhou, Suzhou, and Shazhou all begin to deploy troops. The general only brought some troops from Lanzhou. Take it away, come all the way, and cross the desert like us. It only took half a month. On the other hand, it took them 3 months to travel all the way from the capital. This is because they didn't dawdle anymore after leaving Shazhou, but they were on their way normally, otherwise. Mr. Zhuang said with a smile, our mission is different from theirs, and we have to inquire about news, so naturally it will be slower. He changed the subject and said to the 2, General Ashina and General Guo captured Yankai 2 days ago, and are currently resting in the city. You are the envoy of the mission. Since you are back, do you want to see Ashina? General. He added, since you want to be together on the return trip, then make a good relationship early. Nikenjun glanced at Zhou Liruo, and said to Zhou Man, Master Zhou, someone from the Duhufa wanted to buy 10 dancers back 2 days ago. I heard that they wanted to give the dancers to General Ashina. He thought they could deliver. Manbao refused directly, and said to him, General Ashina is still a concubine. It is Mingda and Changjiao's uncle, so what if we give her uncle a concubine? Nikenjun was at a loss. What was wrong with sending a concubine to the princess uncle? Manbao and Bai Shan muttered a few times, if Mingda and the others ask me about this after I go back, I'll be ashamed to death. Bai Erlang also felt that it was unrighteous. Mingda's aunt was his aunt, so it would be fine if he didn't give the princess a face. Where else would he give his uncle a dancer? So he nodded in agreement with Manbao's decision. Bai Shan glanced at them and said, I once heard Zhao Lu mention General Ashina. He said that Zhao Qiuagong mentioned that General Ashina was a clean and prudent person, and that's why His Majesty married the princess to the general. Yin Yu asked, isn't it to win over General Ashina? Manbao said, there must be this consideration, but if he is not good, His Majesty will not marry his sister to him, right? After all, she is not young anymore. People in their 20s and 30s, the princess is much smaller than the other party. Nikenjun saw that the more they talked, the more they were different, and Mr. Zhuang didn't stop him, so he could only cough lightly, bring the topic back, and asked, then how do we come to ask for a meeting? Go directly. Manbao pointed to Bai Erlang and said, I'll go first. If he doesn't see Bai Shang, they are relatives. Bai Erlang nodded, that's right, I'm his future niece-in-law, and I'll be the consort in the future. Nikenjun. Then you have too many relatives. Bai Shan said, I still need to send some gifts. We have some better tea leaves. The best one is to pick out a box and send it to us. Nikenjun couldn't help, is it too little to only send one box? Bai Shandao, if you are visiting relatives, you can send some everyday things, and General Ashina is not a luxurious person. If you send too much, it will not be beautiful. Yin he also nodded, if he is really a humble and careful person, this gift is neither light nor heavy, I'm afraid it is exactly what he wants. Then Mr. Zhuang nodded with a smile, since you have made up your mind, let's prepare. Man Bao didn't move, she said, always have something to eat first. Bai Shan also nodded, because we thought we would be able to go back to the city today, we ate 2 bites of pancakes for lunch, and then filled a pot of water. At this time, I was very hungry. Mr. Zhuang turned his head to a beautiful girl waiting in the corner and said, go and tell the kitchen that you don't have to cook too many meals. Those who are reserved for dinner will be served with 2 bowls of noodles first. Only then did Man Bao see a girl in the corner of the room, and he immediately said, let them cook a little more, Daji, and they will eat too. The girl was happy to confirm that they would not be sent out, so she happily bowed and ran to the kitchen to tell Mrs. He and the sisters. They also helped with the hands, and soon the noodles were ready and served. As soon as Man Bao tasted it, he raised his head and said to them, why would such a capable girl give it to others? Zhou Liru nodded again and again. With their help, she can do many things easily. Even if they eat more, they can eat more than she does. Speaking of this, Zhou Liru and Man Bao said, little aunt, you can give them a recipe later. They used to dance to maintain their posture, so they always couldn't get enough to eat. I said that if they don't want to be dancers in the future, they won't. I went on a diet and ate more 3 meals a day than I did. I was afraid that their stomachs would not be able to bear it. Anyway, I touched their pulse, and I felt there was something wrong with them. Man Bao said, no wonder I think they are a little fatter than before, so it's not an illusion. She praised, the fleshy ones look better, but you really can't eat more at once. I'll go back and show them. Nai Kenjun saw that the topic kept spinning around them, and wanted to turn back to General Ashina, but he couldn't find the opportunity to speak a few times. But there was no need for him to change the subject, Man Bao naturally raised it, what were you laughing at when we entered the door? When Bai Erlang and Lu Huan mentioned this, they couldn't help laughing up to the sky, and even Yin Or couldn't help but smile. Bai Erlang said, General Guo lost his face a few days ago. He happily said, you don't know that General Guo is extravagant, even in the army, the military tents he uses are decorated with gold and jade, not to mention the utensils in the military tents, and he travels with concubines and entourage. A few days ago he gave the concubine and military tent to General Ashina, but General Ashina refused. Not many people know about this incident. After all, it happened in the army, but Lu Huan was afraid of being beaten. Seeing General Guo and the others returning to the city, for fear that he would toss him again, he sent people to keep an eye on the barracks. Just know this. That's why they were so happy. Yin he said, General Guo probably thought that General Ashina's concubines were used by him, so he wanted to buy these 10 dancing girls back to General Ashina. Bai Shan frowned slightly, this is too extravagant. Is fighting in the army such a child's play? See you at 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2304. General Ashina also felt that General Guo was too extravagant and playful, but he didn't say anything, just said to his deputy, restrict the soldiers, these days of strict training, we will go to Kyosai in a few days. The deputy responded and asked, there is an old nobleman from Jiaokang visiting. All rejected, General Ashina said indifferently, except for military affairs, the rest will not be seen when they come to visit. Because General Guo likes luxury, the local nobles are very fond of it. In fact, the local people in Zizhu also like General Guo very much. Although he is extravagant, he seldom asks them for money and grain. He always intercepts the spoils of war, or asks passing merchants for some beautiful things to play with, euphemistically called escorting caravans. He didn't take money from the local people, and he was able to maintain local law and order, so he was naturally loved. It was only after Lu Huan and the others came here that the local people in Zizhu began to see General Guo's jokes. In the past, although everyone vaguely felt that he was extravagant, but they didn't think there was anything, thinking that all the nobles in the Central Plains were like this. After all, their royal family used to be extravagant, wasn't it? Because of this, General Ashina didn't want to express too much opinion on General Guo's words and deeds. He just came to conquer Kyosai and left after the battle, but this place still needs General Guo to manage. He thought that no one should be able to disturb him when the order went on. Who knew that someone would come to report the next day, "General, there is someone outside asking to see you." General Ashina frowned slightly. "Who is it?" The personal soldiers posted a post and said, "It is a mission to the western regions to find the cowpox method on the order of the emperor." General Ashina reached out and took the post, opened it and asked, "What are they doing here to see me? This is going to be an expedition and not managing local affairs. They should go to the protectorate." The soldier said, "General, there is Princess Mingda's future concubine in the mission." General Ashina retrieved the post he had just left, took another look and asked, "I remember that the chief of the mission is the imperial doctor of the imperial hospital." "Yes, I heard that her treatment of smallpox is considered the first merit, and that Her Royal Highness's illness was cured by her." General Ashina said, "Invite them to come in." After a pause, I felt that it was not good to meet guests here, and said again, "Please go to the lobby." The soldiers went. Mr. Zhuang and Nikenjun did not come, and only asked the six of them to bring a box of tea by themselves. In terms of public identity, Zhou Man's identity is enough. In terms of private identity, Bai Cheng's identity is just right, and it would be inappropriate if he came too. So there were 6 people standing in the lobby. After General Ashina came out, they were also shocked. Except for Zhou Liru, no one's identity was simple. Especially Lu Huan. Now they still need money and food from the Ministry of Household to fight the war. It is conservatively estimated that the war will be fought until the end of the year or next year, and they will need a lot of food and grass. Recalling the documents I received last time, the Ministry of Household was crying poor. At the beginning of this year, there was a smallpox epidemic. In June and July, there was a flood in Jinzhong, and the Ministry of Household gave some money. Reaching out to ask for food, but not even a penny can pay the national tax, so the Ministry of Household has a hard time this year. General Ashina knew that, if it weren't for the fact that this year Kyosai went too far and colluded with the Western Turks to cut off the trade route, His Majesty would not want to conquer Kyosai. After all, in the fall of last year, Dajin and Kyosai were still in love with each other and exchanged documents and gifts. At that time, the king of Kyosai generously invited General Guo's capital to be placed in Kyosai, as if he wanted to become a vassal town. Who knew that just a year later, when smallpox broke out in Xiaoshu, Kyosai turned his face and did not recognize anyone. Thinking of these powerful relationships, General Ashina raised a smile at Lu Huan, and also showed a friendly smile to Zhou Man and Bai Erlang. He looked at them and felt that they were not very old, only 2 or 3 years older than his son, so he became more and more cordial. "How long have you been in the western regions? Are you safe along the way? Are you used to it here?" Finally, they asked about their errands. "Is there any news about the cowpox?" Seeing that he was so kind, Man Bao put down most of his heart, and answered one by one, especially highlighting the 2 horse thieves and 1 tubo soldier they encountered when they came over, and the casualties were heavy. Finally, I mentioned the matter of going back together. General Ashina didn't expect that they had already thought about the teacher's return to the dynasty, so he couldn't help laughing, thinking that they were still children. How can it be so simple to fight a war? How can he know what will happen tomorrow, let alone something so far in the future? He himself doesn't know when the war will end. Therefore, he smiled and said, "This time, the business road to Yumen Pass has been opened. When we came here, the bandits on the road were all suppressed by the imperial army. From Liangzhou to Suzhou, and then to Yumen Pass, even the desert connected to Yumen Pass was blocked. General Guo and the others turned it over 3 times. You have soldiers to protect you, and then use the banner of Dajin, forgive them no matter how bold they are, they will not dare to collide with you again. Bai Shan mentioned Jing Kuyan, who caused them heavy losses. I heard that he is very powerful in the western regions, and he is now serving General Guo. If we go back this time, if he has intentions to harm us and the desert is vast, I am afraid that he will really succeed. This plainly complained, but General Ashina didn't hate him. Instead, he was a little dissatisfied with General Guo. He frowned and said, "Why does General Guo use such a vicious person?" Bai Shandao, perhaps because of his bravery, this person can be one of 10, which is very powerful. General Ashina sighed, and after thinking for a moment, said, "If you want to go back at this time, I will send a small team of soldiers and horses to escort you. General Guo will restrain his subordinates when he knows, so you can rest assured." He looked at a few young people and smiled slightly. "If you want to stay longer and return with me, it will take a long time. It will snow here after September, and it will snow on October 10th. It snows heavily in January, and it will not be easy for you to come up with grasslands. You have to wait until next year, so you can think about it carefully." Man Bao and Bai Shan looked at each other. The two said, "We have to go back and ask the mission. The mission of the mission is to listen to them." Nai Kenjun said, "Since Master Zhou said that the method of inoculation can be tried, why don't we try it here before leaving? If there is something wrong, you can continue to inquire, but if you find something wrong when you return to the capital, we will always can't you come all the way to the western regions again." Wei Xingren and the others thought so too. Their goal this time is to inoculate the pox method. If this method can be done, they will make great achievements when they go back. Now Zhou Man and the others have only inquired about some steps, but the specific recipes are still unknown, and they have not yet been determined. I'm just afraid of being ineffective, but guilty. But this matter still has to listen to Zhou Man. Coincidentally, Man Bao thought so too, so he said, "It seems that we have to go to General Guo and talk about the cowpox test. See you at 9.